In this episode, we're talking about Star Trek and ideas for the new Star Trek TV show. Hello, you are listening to the Sci-Fi Ideas podcast with me, Mark Ball, and my brother David Ball.
Hello!
Hello, David.
Hi. What are we talking about?
Well, today we get to talk about our favourite subject, Star Trek.
That one. Yes.
We always end up talking about Star Trek somehow anyway, don't we?
Are we going to get into an argument? We're going to get into an argument about whether they're good ones?
Let's not talk about
the new ones are good or bad. Okay.
So this is going to be a special Star Trek podcast, isn't it? Because of the news that there's going to be a new TV show.
So we're going to speculate about what it should be about.
Yes.
Should we do that now?
First, I want to thank everybody who sent messages congratulating Dave on his wedding.
I should be thanking people, really.
Yes, well, thank everybody.
All right, thank you. Who sent me messages?
Lots of people have sent me messages.
Really? All right, thank you for those people who sent it via my brother. That's fine. Thank you for the best man speech.
Oh, my pleasure.
Mark toasted me in Klingon, which was.
I did.
Do you remember what you said?
I don't. I do remember it included the word zhazh, which was I had to practice quite a lot.
Did you? Did you practice it a lot beforehand?
I did, yeah.
Were you nervous in case there's someone else there that spoke Klingon and they're like, actually, you pronounce it zhazh?
Well, knowing what your friends are like, yeah.
No, but it was good.
What, the speech or the wedding?
Both.
The wedding was
both. It was fine.
Good.
Yeah, it was really good. We had a bit of a Doctor Who theme. Obviously, you know that because you were there, but the people might not have known. We had
a full-size TARDIS cut out, and a Dalek.
And Weeping Angels, which were very creepy.
Oh, God,
Especially because somebody kept moving them around.
It ended up on stage at one point, didn't it?
I think it was someone from the band who said, "Oh my God, it's freaking me out. We keep moving."
What else was there? There was a Cyberman mask. Everybody wore that Cyberman mask.
It's supposed to change your voice. There's like a voice synthesizer in it, but I couldn't figure out how to get that to work.
But there were a few buttons that, if you press them, they would say delete, delete.
Yeah. I really wish I could figure out how to make it
It scared the hell out of the kids, didn't it?
Yeah.
Kids were crying when people were wearing that.
No, they weren't. No, kids love it. Kids love being scared.
I think it looked really good. It looked really good with a suit, I've realised, though. How weird is that?
What,
Cyberman in a suit looks really good.
That'll be the next Doctor Who baddie. Cyberman crossed with Mad Men.
80s businessman, yeah.
How good would it have been if we actually had a real Dalek? Because you can get them with I think they're either remote control or there's a man inside.
They play a dwarf to drive around in a Dalek.
I think you can get a full-size person inside them. Or these days you just make it remote control, don't you? And then because it must be quite annoying to be sat inside and driving it around because you haven't got much room.
Yeah. How do you drink as well? Like
well, I don't know.
You just
have a
pour beer through the eye.
Through the Getting thirsty. Right, come on, let's talk about Star Trek. Because we know that Doctor Who will go on forever, but Star Trek might not.
Oh, yes. And
because a lot of people are a bit annoyed about the new films because they're not Star Trek-y enough.
Yeah.
Whatever that means. And I think it's probably different for different people. Because I really enjoyed the first of the J.J. Abrams film.
Well, as you know, I didn't.
The second one was ropey as hell.
Yeah.
But still, I'm quite happy that those films were made, and I'm quite happy for it to be a thing, especially a thing that got so mainstream.
Yeah.
And sci-fi these days kind of is quite mainstream, isn't it?
Yes.
Well, more than it used to be.
Yeah.
And so I'm quite happy that Star Trek, which used to be kind of pushed into the realms of, just for the super nerds, was actually something that's kind of brought out and for everyone.
Yeah. Even though the new films seem to be a pastiche of Star Trek.
Oh right, so you think that they were like spoofing it, like Galaxy Quest?
Yes, I think exactly that. Yeah, But, fortunately, I have noticed lately a lot of people are talking about the next gen more than usual. So I think it has had a knock-on effect and made the rest of Star Trek more popular again.
Yeah.
Or the next generation, at least, because it was a very popular show, more so than Deep Space Nine and Voyager, and a lot of people grew up with that. People of our generation grew up with Next Gen.
Yeah.
The way that, that was the big flagship show.
I think a lot of people are aware of it, especially like on the internet. People see memes of Captain Picard.
Yeah, and that's been going on for a while. But I think the whole thing has heightened since the new films have come out. I think Next Gen is... People are more willing to admit now that they like Next Gen. It's not a dirty, geeky secret anymore.
So, is that because of the cool new films?
I think so.
That they've made it acceptable.
Yeah.
Good. That is really good.
It is. It's very good. Yeah.
I'm definitely happy that that's happened. I don't want to be a sort of hipster about it and say, oh no, it should be for the super fans only. But no, I'm happy if people are finding a good show, because I think it is, and I think what I think is good about Next Generation is it's episodic, and a lot of people hate that.
Yeah.
And I've had a few conversations with people recently that the new one can't be episodic in that same way because that's just too old-fashioned these days. But I think that it's good that it is, because it's a self-contained story, and you can watch them out of sequence. You can watch, if there's just one, you just turn a channel. There happens to be an episode on, you can watch it.
Yeah.
Without knowing what the last episode was or the episode before that.
Yeah.
Whereas a lot of films a lot of TV shows these days, like 24, Lost, anything that's in a season run, you can't just dip in and out.
Yeah.
And I know that's one of the things that a lot of people want from a new Star Trek series. They want it to be a whole series long story, which is the modern way.
It is, and all the popular shows at the minute have that. That's the thing. To be a really big, successful show that people are talking about, you want a series-run story arc.
Like Game of Thrones, then.
Exactly.
So a lot of people really want the Game of Thrones in space.
Yes,
I've
or
heard
The Walking
people
Dead,
using that description.
Or Breaking Bad.
Yeah.
These are the shows... Nobody's talking about the episodic shows at the minute, like... trying to think of an episodic sci-fi, like... Eureka.
Well, even Eureka had things going on. It had characters that evolved and the story changed over time.
It did, and I think that's really the happy medium that Star Trek needs to find. It needs some continuing story. It needs character arcs that run through the series.
Yeah.
But still have episodic story.
In that theory, though, the best series would have been Enterprise, where the last one or two series of Enterprise, they continued with a single episode stories, but they had the whole storyline running through the series with the Xindi, and didn't have something after that as well.
The Xindi one was really a series-long story arc. That was, you couldn't really just watch one episode, I think. That.
Yeah, but it did. Every episode had at least some story to it.
Yeah.
It had a beginning, a middle, and an end to that episode, so it felt like you got a full story. Where there's some TV series these days, like Game of Thrones. I love Game of Thrones, but watching one episode at a time, you don't really feel like you've seen a story.
No.
You feel you've seen a few scenes here and there.
You get like a scene of each different character's story, don't you?
Yeah. So I feel like I really enjoyed Game of Thrones, I do, but I don't feel like as satisfied at the end of the episode as I think I would if I'd seen a full story.
Yeah.
Which is why people binge watch things these days. I put on Facebook the other day, because Jessica Jones came out, the Marvel Jessica Jones TV series.
Yeah.
I don't know if you watched it.
I haven't seen any yet, no.
It's a whole series long. Netflix put it all on in one go, which means everyone's like racing to finish it, racing to watch the whole thing because you don't want to miss any spoilers. And I know this happens because loads of people have said that they're doing it. And I think that it ruins it a bit because I like the slow, steady pace that if an episode is released once per week, you can then talk about it with friends.
Because everybody's at the same point.
Yeah, and you can talk about, where's it going, what's going to happen next, or whatever. And it makes it more social. There's blogs like IO9 and things like that will write articles about each episode as it goes through, and they, it feels like a thing, like a community thing. You're all in it together. You can talk about it, you can tweet about it, you can put on Facebook about it. But the whole thing all at once, you can't talk about it until you finish the whole thing.
Because everybody's at different stages, and you're just going to give them the spoilers. Yeah.
Yeah, but then I tell people this, and they're like, "Oh, you've got an old-fashioned way of thinking."
I do like a box set. I do love to binge, but yeah, there are pros and cons on either side. I see exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think Star Trek, it needs to be episodic so that you can create that buzz around it, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. Was there ever a buzz around watching things like Next Generation? Did we watch Next Generation live? I don't know.
Being in the UK, we were probably behind America. Of course, we didn't know anyone in America at that age because there was no internet.
Yeah.
I didn't
talk
seem about
as bad
it at
those
school,
days as well.
But I think nobody would admit to watching it. It's only a few years later that I realised one of my good friends from school, Sean, watched The Next Generation and liked it.
Oh, right.
I guess.
So you were just like...
I thought I was the only one.
All right. I think if they kept the episodic format, people could really talk about each one. You know how Black Mirror, right? Black Mirror is a TV series, kind of like The Twilight Zone. Is that really fair to describe it as
fair,
that?
yeah.
Outer Limits. Every episode is a different story, completely different. Yeah. It's like a mini film. So you watch an episode and it's a film. It's a whole concept right there. That's a very old-fashioned thing, but I love it.
Brilliant.
You can talk about that the next day.
Yeah.
Because it's a self-contained thing. You've seen, someone's either seen it or not seen it, so you can't really give spoilers.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose
but at the same time, there's very little to say about it because there's no cliffhanger. You don't get to say, well, what's going to happen next.
True, it's not as interesting. The whole thing itself has to be interesting and not rely on tricks like cliffhangers.
I think the final series of Enterprise got it right, in that it was episodic. It wasn't a series-long story arc, but there were a lot of 2 and 3 parters in there. So it was a mix of both. There was the story about the augments. That was I think 2 or 3 parter. There was the racists on the moon.
Racists on the moon.
Moon
okay,
racists,
fine.
yeah. Earth
yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Who hated aliens.
They weren't racist. Oh yeah, they were racist because they didn't like aliens.
Yeah, they ordered all
like
aliens to leave Earth.
Racist.
Isolationists, weren't they?
Yeah, but it wasn't the best series of all Star Trek, though, was it?
Oh no, of course not. But I think it was a very good series. It's a shame it took 3 seasons, but I think it was an excellent series, actually. Season 4.
So, okay, where can they go next in Star Trek? Because if they do try and do something different, which is the Game of Thrones in space, make it political, make it about different races of people. You know how Game of Thrones has one scene in the north and one scene in the south, and then one scene overseas, whatever, different stories in different locations. If they did that in Star Trek, you might have one storyline going on in Vulcan, one storyline going on Romulus, one storyline going on Earth. Completely separate stories, but they at some point will sort of cross over. Could Star Trek do that?
Yeah. I don't see why not.
Well, the only the reason why not, I think, is that people will go, but it doesn't feel like Star Trek.
Well,
because there's no exploration.
Yeah, is exploration really that essential to it?
Dunno. I like it.
I like it, yeah, but just thinking about the final few seasons of Deep Space Nine, they did continuing story arcs in different places. They had scenes about Dukat, the bad guy, who would be in a completely different star system to Captain Sisko, and then there'd be somebody off on a special mission somewhere behind enemy lines, and that worked perfectly well, and nobody complained.
Yeah,
a lot of people do seem to think it's not very Star Trek-y, but clearly it is Star Trek.
I would say that is my favourite series of Star Trek.
Deep Space Nine? Really?
The last 2 series, I think.
Oh,
those are my 2 favourite.
Wow, you surprised me there.
Why?
Well, I agree, but I just didn't expect you to say that. I thought you would say Next Gen.
Oh, I'll always have a soft spot for Next Gen.
But Deep Space Nine just had so much more drama, didn't it?
Well, that's it. They combined all the things that we like with a bit more drama, a bit more ongoing character drama.
There was an element of risk that you don't see in other episodes of Star Trek. You know, the Federation was at risk. Things were going wrong.
Yeah.
People were getting injured and even killed in quite serious, permanent ways.
Permanent ways, like Nog lost his leg, didn't he?
Lost his leg, yeah. Jadzia Dax died.
Yeah. Serious stuff happened. Do you think it turned a bit into too much of a soap opera, though?
I don't think so. I've heard people say that, but no, I think it was amazing.
Yeah, I think it was really good.
And then added action sequences, which everybody loves, massive fleet battles.
Oh, I love those fleet battles.
But at the same time, some really good character drama, suspense. There was espionage with Garak. It did absolutely everything. It still had the moral dilemma, which is the core of all Star Trek stories, isn't it?
True, it is, yeah.
Do you remember when Captain Sisko brought the Romulans into the war by lying to them?
Ooh, what happened?
Him and Garak, they made a hologram simulation of a Dominion meeting where the Dominion were talking about invading Romulus.
Oh, right, okay.
And he gave it to the Romulan ambassador to trick them. But by bringing the Romulans into the war under false pretenses, thousands or maybe even millions of Romulans would die as a result.
But it means that they would also win the war.
They'd also win the war and save lives.
Ooh, and I love things with moral dilemmas and ethical questions like that. That is a bit dodgy. I remember one that was a bit iffy, which is where Sisko, the Maquis, which are the rebels.
Yeah.
They're like kind of like resistance fighters.
Yes.
But also, one person's freedom fighter is another person's terrorist.
Yeah.
Sisko did something like he bombed their planet. And I thought at the time, that's going a bit far.
Were the families on there as well? Wasn't the Eddington's family?
Yeah. And I remember one conversation he had with someone a bit later. He was like, who said, "Did you get Starfleet's permission to bomb that planet?" And he goes, "Oh no."
He's done a lot of things. He's started quite a few wars, hasn't he?
Thinking that's a bit wrong. What would Picard think about that? He would shake his head in shame. Shake his head, hang his head in shame. I don't know.
Or either, or both.
You would facepalm.
Yes.
So then, how can they do this without it becoming a pastiche of itself, like you said earlier? Because Stephen Lyle Jordan wrote an article recently that I know is on you put on Sci-Fi Ideas website that said that Star Trek it's old-fashioned now, and any new series is going to, well, I'm paraphrasing, but it was essentially that it's past it.
Yeah, so it's as old-fashioned now as Buck Rogers was back when Star Trek started.
Okay.
Buck Rogers, of course, got revamped in the 80s, but it was still based on the 50s thing. Star Trek, is it out of date? Is it out of touch?
It depends what you mean by Star Trek, though.
Yeah.
I think it's a good platform. It's a good platform. People on a spaceship going into space, having adventures.
Yeah.
Is gonna always work.
It's never going to get old, is it? That's never going to date. That's just
that's
an
something,
adventure plot.
Well, it depends what you mean by it being Star Trek-y. is the transporter.
I think it's the technology that he's really talking about. I mean, a lot of people have commented, like, they've got a bit, they've seen the article and gone, "Oh, no, he's talking trash, and
I know one person said, "Sacrilege!
Sacrilege! He doesn't know anything about Star Trek if he thinks it's out of date, so what if something's out of date doesn't mean it's not valid?" But I think he's actually really talking about the technology, because it's based on a 1960s show, and we've moved on in terms of technology since then, and maybe it's time to kind of refresh and create something
what's out
new.
Of date, though? Because the transporters aren't out of date. That's still future technology. That's still cool. Yeah?
Yeah.
Warp drive, that's still something that's essential for the show anyway, isn't it? That's essential for people to travel amongst the stars. What else have you got? Communicators.
It's fine. I think the problem is a lot of the high-tech technology that they've got in Star Trek is technology we've got now. It was high-tech when the shows came out. We've got that technology now. So it's fine. It's not nothing's out of date there. It's just that it's lacking the future technology that we haven't got yet.
So you think it's lacking the wow factor, isn't it?
Maybe
in
so.
That case?
Yeah.
But I think that's fine. I think it can exist without these things, without the wow factor. I think you can still.
So long as they're not using technology that's old-fashioned to us. But I can't think of any instances where they do that. Apart from the original series, of course, where computers are massive, the communicators are the size of old-fashioned phones.
Yeah, but it doesn't really matter, though, does it? The size of things. My latest phone, it's so difficult getting a phone these days that's actually small. They've gone massive again.
Yeah, yeah.
So you follow that trend into the future. Phones are going to be like backpacks that you can carry around in the future. Like it'll be like a big widescreen TV that you hold in your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or
okay,
maybe
so
they'll be
like
like on wheels, like R2-D2, who is essentially a holographic communicator.
Well, maybe, yeah. I mean, if you look at the technology that we've got in robots now, it's way above what R2-D2 even.
Maybe we'll all be followed around by our own personal robot, who is a phone and also carries things for us, like.
And it also flies because it's a drone.
Yes, like the treasure chest in Discworld. Rincewind has his treasure chest, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, okay. What's it called?
I don't know.
Oh, I can't remember. If you know, let us know via Twitter. Yeah, that's something that Star Trek's never had, actually. It's mostly been about people. It never had any droids. Well, I suppose it had Data, who was a robot, but he was a person robot. He's not like a cube walking around, is he? He's very human.
They had the exocomps in one episode.
That was only one episode, wasn't it?
But yeah, they don't have. But they don't need droids. All these systems are kind of automatic. The ships work. If they need repair, then why not just have a human do it? That's the whole reason humans exist.
But what about the ships could be automated? The spaceships going out in space could completely be robotized.
They could, yeah.
We right now send out unmanned probes. So why wouldn't the Enterprise be an unmanned probe?
Because they want to meet people and have experiences and,
They want the human touch.
They want the human touch, yeah.
Yeah, I think that was explained in a Star Trek game that I played. I'm not quite sure what it was. It might have been Starfleet Academy. They had William Shatner on there, actually recorded William Shatner, and he was saying about the reason why they don't send robots into space, and that was because of the ethical dilemmas that you have. The decisions that you have to make, that has to be done by someone with morals, a human with morals.
Yeah.
And I thought that was quite interesting.
There's too much to go wrong with an automated ship, isn't there? If it goes wrong, it goes wrong, and there's nobody there to fix it.
Yeah.
Whereas humans are quite good for...
I think it could fix itself, but I think it's the decision-making that's lacking.
Do you remember that episode of Voyager where there was an automated probe called Friendship 1? It was a warp probe sent out during the lifetime of Zefram Cochrane, just after warp drives invented. And it had reached the Delta Quadrant, and it had crashed on this planet, and they'd taken the technology and built really nasty weapons and basically wiped themselves out.
Oh, no. I do remember that, yeah.
Just because we'd sent out this robotic probe with nobody on it to meet people, to make decisions.
Do you think that's what it was getting at?
It's one way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I don't really know what it was getting at, because the survivors were blaming the Voyager crew because it was their species that had sent the probe, but they were the people who decided to turn this thing into a weapon. Why are they having a go at us?
Well, I think it's ignorance, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't really know what the moral of the story was there.
Well, I think you can take...
There's a lot you could take from it. It's kind of about Cold War as well, wasn't it? And there's a lot going on there. It was just an accident. I think the moral was accidents happen.
Yeah.
Sorry your entire civilization got wiped out, but, accidents happen.
So that's the kind of thing that we want in a new Star Trek series, isn't it?
Yeah.
These kind of challenging moral things.
Yeah.
like that. That's what Star Trek's kind of good at. Moral decisions and stuff. You can still get that from a show that's not episodic.
Of course. There are still many moral dilemmas to address that Star Trek's never addressed before. Stephen Lyle Jordan also wrote an article about this, about what ethical dilemmas could it face in the future. And there are issues of sexuality. Star Trek's never touched before. Well, actually it has.
Not never.
No, it has touched transgenderism a little bit.
Oh, did it?
There was a species with no gender.
Oh, I think we talked about this on the last podcast, didn't
we? Did we? I think we have talked about it before, yeah. Well, let's not talk about it then.
Okay, yeah. They haven't done too much about sexuality. Like, I remember reading a Star Trek book by Peter David, and it had a gay Vulcan.
Oh, yeah.
So this guy. And he was saying that a lot of people of his race didn't think it, because it's not logical to be gay.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't produce children.
But it is something that does just occur in nature.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Vulcans are just prone to that, same as anybody.
Yeah. So I suppose there's a bit of interest there, seeing how different cultures, different cultures of Star Trek react to these things, not just humans.
And there are a lot of sexual issues related to sexuality that are coming into the forefront now that Star Trek has never even considered touching, like gay rights for one thing, but also there's a case.
I think Star Trek's always been big about the rights of
individuals. Yeah, but
yeah,
there are like certain specific cases that can be touched upon. Recently, there was a transgender person in prison, a transgender woman who was still technically classed as a male, and so was in a male prison. And should she be treated as a woman and put into a woman's prison?
Okay.
And that there are kind of individual circumstances to be looked at. I'm not going to say what's right or wrong. It's not for me to say. But that's a really interesting dilemma.
South Park did an episode about this. And if South Park can do an allegory...
This is it. South Park is always finding tricky moral issues to talk about. So
yeah.
I'm sure Star Trek can.
It's always quite interesting. They never ever sum it up or anything, but they always give you interesting things to think about.
Yeah. Immigration is another hot topic at the minute. I don't know if Star Trek's addressed that issue before.
Yeah, loads of times.
Has it?
I think.
There's certainly a lot of migration within Federation space and around, but
the Marquis we mentioned earlier.
That was, true. Yeah,
that was all about people being forcibly moved out of an area.
Yeah,
because it was Cardassian space. Is that right?
The borders changed, didn't they?
The borders changed, and so the humans that lived on those planets had to be moved because Cardassian wanted them back. Something like that.
Yeah.
So they started.
It was a parallel with Native Americans, wasn't it, with forced evictions?
Oh, I suppose so.
But what about political refugees, though? What about just economic migration and the problems that can cause? I think we've talked before about the interesting thing of Vulcan and Romulus being destroyed. That's going to lead to immigration issues.
Yes.
Because if the Romulan Empire collapses, there's going to be a lot of people fleeing Romulus, Romulan space.
Definitely.
And where are they going to go? Are they going to be taken as refugees into the Federation? Are they going to mix well with whatever species planets they end up on? All Romulans are, I guess, seen as a security risk, aren't they?
Yes.
So if we get Romulan immigration into the Federation, are all of these Romulan civilians a security risk to the Federation? That's a direct parallel with what's going on with Syrian refugees at the minute, where people are afraid of all Syrian refugees because they're, I guess, the enemy somehow, in people's minds.
Well, because I think, it's funny, isn't it? Can you really do these things in Star Trek and still keep it an allegory, or are people going to go, ooh, it's a bit on the nose?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd like things to be quite on the nose. I'd like some direct political satire, I think, personally, but I can understand why they have to keep things a bit vague. They've got a very broad audience they need to appeal to. This is the problem.
Yeah, it's got to be vague, but I worry that they might wuss out.
Yeah.
The TV executives might wuss out and then make it a bit safe.
Yeah. They often have in the past. A lot of people have said that this was the only problem with Star Trek, was that it did wuss out on occasion, but...
Yeah. Okay, so how do you think they will structure this new series then? If it's going to be, like I keep saying, the Game of Thrones in space, and it's going to be political, is it going to be about multiple characters?
Well, they're probably not going to go the full Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is kind of a political thing, and Deep Space Nine probably already did it in a way. But they need to appeal to new fans who are new to the show, who don't know who the Romulans, who the Klingons are.
Well, in that case, then,
needs to be simplified. It probably will be based on a ship. Could
they focus on different alien races? Don't keep dragging the Klingons and Romulans out, because their story is already done.
Yeah,
It was great world building at the time, but let's focus on something else now.
There are loads of species in the Federation who haven't really been explored, so there could be some world building there on species that we know exist but haven't found anything about, like the Bolians.
Yeah.
God, there's loads. I mean, there's a few... Andorians haven't been done much.
Well, just invent
there's
loads more.
There's a few thousand worlds in the Federation. A few thousand inhabited worlds.
Well, there's the ones from that film, one of the Star Trek films, where he's got his genitals in his knees. Just make it all about them.
Yeah.
And the daily problems they have.
There was maybe some species from old episodes that were only in that one episode, for that one moral dilemma. Maybe expand them,
Yeah.
What about the hermaphrodite species? What are they doing now? Have they accepted that gender exists?
Okay.
They could have a really interesting society. We've only seen that one aspect of them.
Yeah. Does that work though in an epic series? In the epic series we want?
Well, maybe not. It's maybe just one element of it.
I'm not saying I don't want things like that. I want it all. I want everything.
I would really like to see conflict within the Federation. I've been saying this for a while. Like, some kind of Federation civil war might be quite interesting.
Loads of people seem to want this, but I'm not that bothered about a Federation civil war.
I want the Federation to be tested.
Unique ideas for.
I want the morals to be tested.
Pictures. Morals are tested, aren't they?
Yeah, but in a big way. I don't know. Division somehow. It's exciting.
Well, they sort of started that in Star Trek Into Darkness, but
yeah, and Insurrection as well, which a lot of people don't like that movie, but.
It had good bits, didn't it?
Yeah, it's just silly things like the joystick is the problem.
Manual controls.
But the idea
it didn't really feel like the whole Federation was.
There are people who care so much about the Federation that they're willing to break Federation morals to protect the Federation, like Section 31, the secret people from Deep Space Nine who have been around since the very beginning of the Federation, pulling strings, doing dodgy deals to protect the Federation, but at the same time corrupting it.
In that case, then, surely the ideal series is Star Trek Renegades.
Yeah. I suppose.
Okay, should we explain that? That this Star Trek Renegades is a fan series that stars, I can't think of his name, the guy that plays Chekhov.
Yeah.
In fact, quite a few actors that you
There's
would see.
There's Tuvok in it. In fact,
Tuvok's in it.
Tim Russ directed it.
Did he? Ooh. Okay. There's the Borg guy, the Borg teenager from Voyager, Icheb.
Yeah.
Admiral Paris was in it.
Briefly, yeah.
Very briefly, yeah. So it wasn't great. I've seen the first episode. I don't
That's
even know
putting it lightly.
How many episodes are there? Is it just that one?
It's just the one.
Okay, so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't feel very Star Trek. Well done for them for trying to be different.
It felt more Star Trek than the new Star Trek films to me.
I didn't feel it.
Only because there's some familiar faces in, I suppose.
It didn't stick to the format that I liked.
Yeah.
it tried very hard to be different, which is great that they are trying.
Yeah.
The plot of it is there's a baddie, and kind of threatens planet Earth, but it didn't feel really that Earth was being threatened on a global scale. It all felt quite small scale to me.
Yeah.
You never really saw any implications for anyone living on Earth.
You did get to see the entire of Earth's skies being blacked out by some kind of cloud thing.
Didn't feel real.
And then everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is the end!" Rather than actually getting down to solving quite a simple problem.
Yeah, nothing was convincing to me.
No. That wasn't actually explained either, was it? That there was some kind of obelisk that was causing the Earth go into darkness somehow.
Yeah, it was all a bit odd.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there's a backstory there, so maybe there's going to be maybe it's going to be explained in the second episode,
yeah,
or another episode. But it just all felt a bit clunky.
Yeah,
like I'm believing the story because they're telling me it.
Yeah,
it all seemed a bit complicated, unnecessarily complicated.
Yeah,
they tried to put lots of action in it, which is fine.
Yeah, and there were some ship battles which were okay.
Yeah. I think you can do things like ship battles quite easy. I think
you can do it on a budget as well, can't you? It's fine.
Although having said that, that's not always the case, because it needs a bit more creative thoughts to make it interesting.
Yeah,
it's just two ships in space. You don't really need to fly around. You can just stay static and shoot each other.
Yeah,
pretty much. So you need to think, like, why are they moving around?
In that case, that Federation ship would have lost every time, because it took about 5 minutes for them to reload the torpedo launchers and recharge the phasers.
Not worried about things like that, really. No. I'm more worried about the dodgy acting.
Yeah. And the helmsman that looked like he was on drugs.
He did look a bit kind of relaxed and like he didn't want to be there, didn't he? But I feel bad for mocking it.
I know, because they're really trying.
I'm quite glad that they've tried. Yeah. I just don't feel like they're really capturing what I want.
It was kind of like when a group of kids get together and decide to put on a play. You can't mock it. They put the heart and soul into it. They spent loads of time. Bless the little hearts.
But it's more than that, though, because they're not trying to emulate episodes of Star Trek. They're trying to do something different. Emulation. Have you ever seen the what's it called? Star Trek Continues. Have you ever seen those?
No. What's that?
They're recreating the original series episodes. So they've got.
Oh yes, I have seen that. Yeah.
Nobody that you would recognise, but they're playing Kirk and Spock and McCoy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That
and
one.
Scotty. It's good because they've got it perfect. They've got it nailed. They've got the feeling of the episodes.
Yeah.
Absolutely nailed. It's let down a little bit, I think, by acting not being as good as it could be. But then I'm always gonna say that because they're never gonna. It doesn't have the actors that we like, and it is still a fan thing, and it's not bad.
Yeah.
I watched one earlier today, and it was good. But I don't want a new Star Trek series to be based on the original series. Yeah. I do want it to be something that's new and a bit more challenging, because all they're doing is kind of continuing the same old sort of stuff.
Yeah. I watched earlier today an episode of Dark Matter.
Dark Matter, okay.
Yeah, I say watched. I started watching it, then started going on Facebook and just ignored it.
How many have you seen?
I don't know, a few. Maybe 4 or 5 or something. It's really not interesting me at all. But I was thinking, this could be Star Trek. It could be set in a Star Trek universe.
Yeah.
And that would be another way to do a Star Trek story, a different format.
First half of the first episode, I saw the full first episode, and I was getting into it. It was interesting that these characters, they came out of stasis, they didn't know who they were.
Yeah.
Great idea. Yeah. They had to sort of find themselves, find out what each of them sort of brought to the table and their skills and whatever. Great, but then
as it turned out, they didn't really have personalities, and none of them really brought anything to the table.
No, that was the problem. And so after that, I kind of I lost interest, which is I was a bit let down.
But that format, that idea, that could be done well with the right writing.
Yeah. But it essentially is the same thing, isn't it? It's people on a spaceship going and having adventures.
Exactly, yeah, and that's why I was thinking that could be done in the Star Trek universe. That could be a new Star Trek show.
Yeah. Do you think that they will make something completely new, or do you think they will take something that exists already? So, for example, Star Trek Titan is a really popular series of books with Captain Riker, I think.
Yeah.
And lots of people like them. I've never read them. But they could do that sort of thing. I mean, maybe Jonathan Frakes might not be up for it. I don't know.
They've actually, I believe there have been talks about this. They just decided against it for some reason.
That's a shame. Well, how about they could do, if they were worried about its long-term popularity, they could do a one-off. They could do a film.
Yeah.
You know, in this day and age, you could do a film quite easily and release it. I mean, Star Trek Renegades did.
Yeah.
And that was as successful as any, I think, in reaching Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
The only difference is, if it's good, then it will probably get spread further, because people will go, oh, have you seen this? It's really good. And if they could Kickstarter it, if it felt right, though, if it felt like it fit in with the universe, that's what I want a bit more.
Yeah.
Because Renegades felt like it was a fan thing.
Yeah.
You know, uniforms didn't quite fit right, the scenery didn't quite look right, didn't feel like it was in the same universe that
the uniforms didn't fit the characters. They didn't fit the actors.
No, that's what I meant. Yeah, it all felt a bit wrong. What about Star Trek New Frontier?
New Frontier was
which is
an interesting series of books.
Yeah, I love those books. So that could, I think, be done quite well, because it's a continuing story. It's not episodic, and it's all about the characters. So these are books by Peter David, and the captain. The captain's kind of like a, what do you call him? He used to be like a freedom fighter for his people.
Yeah.
Bit rebellious.
He's a loose cannon.
He's a loose cannon, which is perfect. He's a very flawed character, and he looks like a bit of a badass as well. He's got a massive scar down his face, which
he is alien, isn't he?
He is alien, yeah.
But the only thing that makes him look alien is that he's got purple eyes.
Yeah.
Even though this is a book and there are no makeup costs to consider, I always found that weird.
I like it, because Star Trek should be about people. Yeah. I think I know it's about aliens.
You don't really need them to look alien, do you? It's about the differences.
It's about the differences of people, different cultures and whatever, all coming together. People do criticise Star Trek for being like that, and I suppose it does let itself down on the creativity. But I think I'd rather see a person with a bit of prosthetics. I'd rather see that than a bad Muppet or something.
Really? I think that's the one thing Star Trek's always missed, is a bit of Jim Henson magic.
Well, Farscape did quite well, didn't it? But then I think a lot of people would probably not watch Farscape because it looks a bit Muppety.
Yeah. I think Farscape did really well with prosthetics, though, as well, didn't it?
Yeah,
They weren't all puppets. They were like
and really
what do you call him? The guy with the tentacles hanging off his face. That he looked really alien, but it was still just a man in a mask. So
yeah, it did really well. Okay, so yeah, maybe that would be good.
Yeah. So New Frontier, it's set in a different region of space that we've not seen before. Is that right?
This is what I like about it, because people say, "Oh, but they've explored space and they've probably explored it all by now." But what is good about this is it's a whole region of space called do they call it the Tholian? No, not Tholian space.
It's something that sounded like that, wasn't it?
Something like Thalonian, I think. But it was this empire that has collapsed.
Mm.
So the political things kind of all gone to pot, and so the home world of this empire has been destroyed, and all of the smaller planets are kind of scrabbling for power, and they're not quite sure what to do, and so it's a big political mess. So I thought they could do a good whole series about that.
That sounds really good. So each planet gives you another moral dilemma, but there's a story arc kind of on top of everything, because it's all set in the same place. Yeah,
and it would give it that sort of the excitement of a new area that's been unlocked for people to see. You know, when in Enterprise with the Xindi,
Yeah.
they're like, oh, what was it, the Xindi Expanse? That's like, oh, it's a new area, and people go, oh, wow, yeah, it's a new area. Whereas in Next Generation, they could be in new areas all the time, and in fact they are every episode, but you don't really think about it. It's just some space.
But it is nice to focus on one area, isn't it? And then explore it in depth and do some world building.
Yeah, definitely.
To see how things connect together, that's the interesting thing for me. So this brings us
in the
on
way that like Babylon 5 did.
Yeah.
Because Babylon 5 did that very, very well.
It did, definitely.
It had tensions between some species and, alliances. Oh, yeah, it was really good.
Ever-changing political landscape, yeah.
Yeah.
So this brings us to an idea of Stephen Lyle Jordan's that I hope he doesn't mind us sharing. He talked about on a private Facebook chat with us both. He talked about wanting to explore the core Federation worlds, which I love that idea. Some of these core species, we've never got to see much about their home worlds, really. I mean, like Beta Z, been there once, maybe. Never been to Boleus. Vulcan hasn't been explored to great depth, really.
Yeah. We could do more of that. I feel like, fine, we could do that, but I want to see something different.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can explore these things. But what are you going to do on the planets?
Well,
you're going to have people walking around, having a stroll.
His idea was kind of like an emergency response thing. I think that was his idea. I might be mixing it up slightly with one of my ideas.
Oh, what? So like Thunderbirds?
Basically, yes.
International rescue.
International rescue. But Stephen's idea was that there'd be 3 different ships. So one is like a medical ship. One is maybe a law enforcement ship.
Thunderbird 1, Thunderbird 2, and Thunderbird 3.
Yeah, very specialised. and the other, I guess, like...
this is fine.
Some kind of emergency rescue thing. And so you have like an episode based on each. So first episode is about the medical ship. Second episode is about some crime fighting. Third episode is there's some disaster, some building collapses, and these ships have to race to the scene and get involved. And then every few episodes, or like your season finales, you get some really big disaster happens, and there's a storyline that requires all 3 ships, and so all 3 crews are in attendance, and it all fits together. You could also have characters going from ship to ship, like the rescue ship or the police ship might need a medic for something special, so they have a crewman from the hospital ship goes for the episode.
Okay.
And they work together and do training between them,
But the problem I have is, how do you know which ship you're on? Because it can get confusing. Do you remember the first episode of Stargate? What's the last one called? Universe.
Yeah.
Stargate Universe.
Yeah.
They were on Earth, then they went on a ship, and then they were on a planet. And I was like, oh God, I can't... Where are they now?
Really? You can't keep up with the difference between a ship that looks very... it's very easy to identify that ship. It's a very kind of iconic look, unique feel to it. And Earth and the planets are always desert planets. How can you not tell the difference?
Well, because they were just in rooms each time.
Yeah, but the rooms on the ship look completely different to any room on Earth.
But it's just confusing. If you're looking at characters on one spaceship, then you switch scenes to characters on another spaceship, you're going to get lost, aren't you?
Yeah, true.
Unless you make them look really, really different. Like one's really, really dark and one's really, really light.
Yeah.
In
Stargate
really,
Universe,
green.
that was fine because the ship was really dark. You could tell. What you couldn't tell was who because they did the communication stones body swapping thing. That was confusing.
Oh, that was really... Yeah, that was complicated.
But with Stephen's idea of 3 ships, you could have different uniforms for each ship.
That'd be fine, yeah.
You could have them, built in different kind of design styles. Maybe one of them is kind of like the early movies era. Had quite a unique look to it compared to the modern ships.
Whoa, are you thinking about different timelines?
No, just maybe it's an older ship.
Okay, right, so it's got old uniforms. Does the uniform go with the ship?
No, there have to be modern uniforms, but maybe these aren't actually Starfleet. Maybe, like, the hospital ship is like a Starfleet medical corps, so it's got its own special uniform.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Yeah, I like that idea. How about, instead of it being on different spaceships, how about you have these different storylines? One's on a planet, and one's in space, and one's somewhere else. That's why I think that's my ideal.
Okay.
You've got people on a planet doing planety things, people in space.
What are planety things?
I don't know. Maybe they're. Yeah, I don't know actually. But
so this is your entire idea: is some are on a planet, some are on a ship.
Yeah, maybe on the planet they're researching things.
Right.
So on the ship they go out and they find new technology, then they bring it to the planet, and then that's where you get the stories of people researching the technology. Maybe things go wrong.
Do they not
maybe
do that on the ship,
like
though?
Eureka.
Do they not do that on the ship? Isn't that what happened in Next Generation?
Yeah, true, but maybe the ship's like a warship and it's going off doing war type things. Or maybe it is a medical ship and it's just doing medical response, just an ambulance.
Yeah, I do like that idea. I like the idea of like ER in space.
Yeah, how about, right, there was a series, this is another idea, there was a series of Star Trek books called, can't remember what they're called, it's something like Portals or something like that, where in every time period of Star Trek, because there's original series, Next Generation, Enterprise, whatever, they find this portal, and so each of the different crews will investigate this portal and some different thing will happen. And so it's connected by theme,
right? But
completely different stories. So you could have different time periods. Oh, I can't really remember. I think there was also one of the Starfleet Corps of Engineers book about these same portals. Where did the portal go? I don't know. Maybe it was like Iconian. Maybe it was an Iconian portal, or maybe that was a similar sort of idea.
Iconians are something that haven't been fully realised by the TV show as well.
No, but they're explored a lot in Star Trek Online.
Yes. They are like the kind of the main story arc running through Star Trek Online, I would say. Parts that I played, anyway.
I didn't really do that much with them. I got to the bit where you were... there was like a big base with lots and lots of portals.
Yeah.
But I didn't quite get to the bit where you're in a Dyson sphere. I didn't quite
No, the full story hadn't been fully revealed by the time we stopped playing it. I think we're going to have to go back. There's a lot more being added. Yeah, there's Dyson sphere storyline. That's really interesting.
I like I've seen some pictures of a dinosaur, and I'm interested in...
Yeah, I think the dinosaurs are inside the Dyson sphere.
Cool.
Sounds amazing. It's probably not, but it sounds amazing.
Yeah, I think I saw like a Borg dinosaur as well, which is probably the coolest thing that could ever be, a Borg dinosaur.
So yeah, that's another possibility. You could have a Dyson sphere somewhere, and lots of immigrants are coming to it. Lots of Romulan refugees are being resettled in the Dyson sphere. Maybe it's the Dyson sphere that we saw in that Next Gen episode with Scotty. Okay. Yeah.
You wouldn't really need a spaceship, though, for this story. It's all kind of ground-based.
Yeah.
Is that really Star Trek, though?
I don't know.
Could you do Star Trek about exploration, but be about characters walking around a Dyson sphere?
Yeah. There's a huge area to explore.
You are literally trekking around a star.
Yes.
It would be kind of like Ringworld, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
These characters walking about, finding stuff.
Good idea.
I think that's a good idea. I'm not sure.
And who built the Dyson sphere? What's the mystery behind it?
Yeah.
And then all the colonists are, there's tension between them.
Am I right in thinking, because I'm not sure about a Dyson sphere, am I right in thinking that you can walk around, then look up and see the sun?
Yeah.
And then if you look past the sun, there's eventually the...
other side of the sphere, yeah.
And there's enough atmosphere there, is there, to just walk around?
Yeah.
That would be a massive amount of land.
Oh, yeah, ridiculous.
That's really how it works.
Well, Dyson's original concept wasn't a complete sphere. Okay. It was more of a web. A collection of smaller objects, probably connected, but not fully... not like a fully sealed sphere. Because his idea was simply to collect the solar energy.
Right.
It's later scientists and writers that have put the whole idea of making it a full sphere. It's been mixed with the ring world concept to make it habitable.
Yeah, okay.
But yeah, the amount of energy you're collecting is the entire energy output of the star. So that's vast. And so you could run whatever kind of machines you want inside this thing. Although a lot of it's going to be collected by the plants on the surface, if it's that kind of sphere. But you could have just vast regions, like the same surface area of an entire planet could be dedicated to just solar panels. Be like a planet-sized sea of solar panels.
So there's obviously, technically, there's a lot of land there that you could explore, but wouldn't it get a bit boring? Like, every episode is like, oh, we're walking a bit further.
Well, you wouldn't actually have them walk. Let's be clear, this is Star Trek. You can have, hover stuff, you can use a teleporter.
In that case, it's kind of a lot like Stargate Atlantis, isn't it? Where they are going around in the little shuttles.
Yeah.
And they're pretty much...
Stargate Atlantis, there was a lot to explore in Atlantis itself, wasn't there? They had a lot of episodes just based in Atlantis.
Yeah, but then after a while, they kind of got a bit bored of that.
Yeah, and had to venture out.
You're going to do so much.
Yeah.
Before people start going, oh, again?
Yeah. We're talking Atlantis on a vast scale. And then, obviously going to have a ship going out as well.
Yeah.
Some bad guys nearby who want the Dyson Sphere for themselves.
They could probably have part of it, but you'll never see them.
Yeah, true.
Because, a whole surface area of a planet would be...
So you could have loads of different species all coming and colonising this Dyson Sphere together. It's got to cause some tensions. Got to be interesting. Yeah. But there's maybe one species has been excluded. Maybe it's all Federation species who are colonising it, but the Klingons want in.
Ah, right, okay. So there's a bit of tension there.
Yeah.
I just don't think this is as exciting as that.
There are Romulan refugees
could be
settling there, but the Romulan remnant, the remnant of the Empire that survived, they want to claim it because they're our citizens. We have dominion over them.
Yeah. So, right, what we know is there's a lot they could do.
Yeah.
What they're actually going to do, I reckon, is going to be more disappointing than all of these things.
Oh, of course, yeah.
What I think would be interesting, I don't know what your thoughts are of this, is if they start building a shared world, a shared Star Trek world. Because we're in a decade now about shared worlds. It seems to be the modern thing.
Okay.
Marvel has loads of TV series, loads of films, all set in the same world.
I see what you mean, yeah.
So...
Well, this is something that Star Trek did in the golden years of Star Trek, where there was Next Gen, DS9 and Voyager running parallel.
Yeah. They never really crossed. I suppose they had a few crossovers.
A little bit, yeah. They always tried to make
Voyager where they sent the Doctor back to the Alpha Quadrant, didn't they? Remember that?
Onto the
Prometheus.
And he ended up on
he ended up on a prototype ship that'd been lost in Romulan space or something like that. And then they said, oh, what about the war? And he's like, what war? Didn't hear about a war. There was an episode where Dr. Bashir was on the Enterprise, I remember.
Yeah.
Felt a bit isolated, though. It was like you only ever got one character going across at the time.
Yeah, they never did the full-on kind of all the crews intermingling, yeah. That would have been interesting.
You never got Captain Picard and Data walking down the promenade in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I'd like to see the Enterprise fighting some Dominion.
Yeah.
Defending Deep Space Nine.
Well, what I'm hoping then is that we could get multiple series.
If the first one's successful, then we might get that explosion again, possibly.
Yeah.
But this new show has to be really good before that can happen.
Yeah, but it's happening with Star Wars as well. We're not just getting the new Star Wars film, but we're also getting something. I can't remember what it's called, but a spin-off, and then we're also getting an origin story of Han Solo or something like that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think so.
Oh, wow.
So, there's obviously lots of things in the works that will kind of all just enhance each other, really. Yeah.
The thing is with Marvel is that these stories already exist in comic book form. They're already proven, so you've already got that resource to draw on. when making
There's
the
a lot
film.
of Star Trek comics, though, but not
Are
really
there?
many. I think so.
I suppose this is the thing that we've got
there's
the
more
books.
like
There's
books.
a lot of
Star Trek books.
Yeah. So we could have
there's a lot of series.
New Frontier, and we could have Star Trek Titan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would love that. I'd absolutely love it. There's also the Star Trek Corps of Engineers books,
Right, yeah.
which I don't know much about. There's more that I can't even think of.
I like this idea. There's so much that can be done.
And you can carry on doing the films as well. You know, to keep it mainstream, you can have the films that are all sort of excitement and explosions for the people who are not really that into it, because that's kind of what it feels like they're doing with the Marvel stuff. Every so often an Avengers film comes out or an Iron Man film comes out, and that's a big spectacle. But in the meantime, you can watch Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which is not quite as exciting, but enough of a little fix between films.
Yeah. Going back to Stephen Lyle Jordan's article about is Star Trek too dated, do we need Star Trek at all? We've got all these great ideas. Why do we need to set them in the Star Trek universe? Would it not be better to create something new? Create a new franchise that has maybe Star Trek's core ideas. Maybe we can borrow the format, we can borrow the morals, but set it somewhere new and exciting, and with technology that's perhaps more relevant to today.
I'm all for it, yeah, because I suppose the problem is if you're trying to reinvent Star Trek, you're going to piss off the Puritans, aren't you? And yeah, it might be better to
make something like Star Trek that's not Star Trek, and don't force it to be.
You're
just
going to
admit
get
that
people.
It's not.
You're going to get people though that go, but it's copying Star Trek, aren't you?
Yeah, probably. You always get that with anything new. You always get people saying, "Oh, but it's just this, it's just that."
No, I'm all for it though. I think more of these sort of things, the better. I love exploration and space and all that sort of thing. And if there's two shows, if they make Star Trek and something else, if it's in the Stargate universe, if it's in a completely random new thing, yes, do it. As long as it's good. I don't want it to be dark matter.
So I think we can conclude then by saying that we are all for all these multiple various ideas that we talked about. We're excited about any new sci-fi show, whether it's Star Trek or not.
If it's about trekking in the stars,
adventure, moral dilemma, a bit of world building, ongoing stories and episodic stories and character-driven stories. This is what we want. All of this. We don't ask for much.
Yeah, I'm. It has to be all of those things. Okay. I think that we should ask people as well, people listening to this, to send their ideas in as well. And
oh yes, your ideas for a new Star Trek show or a new show of any type.
Yeah, and also tell us if our ideas are terrible.
Yes.
What do you think of that Dyson Sphere idea? Is that good? Is it bad? Or maybe we can get people to write some stories for it.
Oh yeah, I think we've developed a new idea just live on air right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
Are you going to write it?
No.
No, I'm not either.
Maybe.
Right. Okay.
Maybe.
So...
We'll have a think about that. Maybe we could do like some kind of group thing. Maybe you should start it as a role-playing game on Ongoing Worlds.
Could do. It's a bit of a big concept though, isn't it? Like you've got to set quite a lot up.
Yeah.
To explain.
But surely the whole point of it is that people are coming and claiming their area of the Dyson Sphere and doing what the hell they want, and nobody's working together doing the same thing. That's the challenge. That's the problem, and the challenge. Trying to organise this, trying to bring order from chaos.
It's a difficult thing. Yeah, especially trying to organise writers.
Like herding Romulans, which is herding Romulans. That's a new saying I've invented.
Yeah, nobody's going to say that ever. No. Right, I think we should wrap this episode up.
Yeah,
because we've been talking about Star Trek for a long time
but
now.
Let's just say then that if you want to share your ideas for a Star Trek show, put them in the comments, or you can email them to me at mark@scifiideas.com. if we get enough of these, we might compile them into an article for the website.
Excellent. Well said.
Yep.
Right. We will go.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.